Well, for people that don't know, my name is Jay Ashcroft, running for Secretary of State. My background, grew up in Jefferson City, Missouri, graduated from the University of Missouri-Rolla, have a couple degrees in engineering from there, went to work in West Plains, Missouri for a local defense contractor, did that for 2 years in West Plains, and then got transferred up to St. Louis, so did a total of 4 years there, running an assembly line, doing some quality improvement, cost reduction things for that manufacturer. Then taught for 6 years as a professor of mechanical engineering at the St. Louis Community College system at Forest Park, Flow Valley, and Merrimack campuses. They only had the 3 campuses at the time. Shows how old I am. They now have 4. And then while I was teaching, got married to my wife, and we decided to go to law school together. So that's where a lot of people would say my career went in the wrong direction when I went to law school. Graduated from St. Louis University Law School and have been practicing law for the last 8 years. Generally, most of what I've been doing has been helping companies comply with federal rules, federal and state rules and regulations. A lot of it has been in the financial industry or in pharmaceutical medical devices. A little bit of work dealing with privacy and data protection, which kind of harkens back to my engineering background, in which I have multiple certifications from the International Association of Privacy Professionals, and also a little bit of immigration work. I have 4 kids, David, Samuel, Elise, and Benjamin, that are 10, 7, 3, and 9 months. We need a change in tone from the Secretary of State's office. I think there are really 2 ways you can approach that office tone-wise. One is you're looking for headlines because you want to move up to a higher office. And 2 is you're there to fulfill the duties, responsibilities, and obligations of the office to help the people of the state of Missouri. And I think the last couple individuals we've had there have been more concerned with making headlines. And when you want to make headlines, you go after businesses instead of helping support businesses to do things well and correctly and legally so that they can, build their widget and be successful and hire more individuals. And I think we really need a change in that understanding and tone in that office. We see it both in the business services and in elections, where we have elections where we run out of ballots 6:15 in the morning. That shouldn't happen in a first world country. So the first thing I really want to see is this change in this idea that that's not a position that you just use as a stepping stone or for your own personal aggrandizement. That's a place where you serve the people of the state. And I think the foremost responsibility of government is to secure, promote, and enhance personal freedom and individual liberty. If you look back at my ancestors, they didn't amount to a hill of beans in Europe. But they came to America where they were allowed to be free and to take risks. Sometimes when you take those risks, you fall in your behind and have to wipe off your fanny and step back up and try again. But those are also those risks that allow you to be as successful as possible. And we need a government that's creating avenues of freedom and liberty, because when you have more freedom, you have more opportunity, and that's what allows people to be successful. And when you're looking at that office as serving the people of the state and creating opportunity for them to be what they want to be and live how they want to be, you're going to see business opportunity and freedom in other areas. And that's what we need. We need that change in tone. I like the idea of the initiative petition process. I've used it myself to work to get the photo ID initiative, the constitutional amendment that we'll be voting on in November. I think it's very important for the people of the state to have a process. I love maybe I've watched Mr. Smith Goes to Washington too many times, but I love that idea of that pure citizen initiative where a citizen writes that, collects the signatures, and then if the citizens vote on it, it can be made law bypassing the legislature and the governor. So I think that is important, but we also have to have a Secretary of State that takes it seriously and understands that I believe the most important thing that government does is have elections, which, if you have, some individuals will talk about roads or education, and those are important. But the most important thing is elections, because that's how we, the people, consent to be governed. Decide who will govern us, not as often as we should, decide who will no longer govern us, and give them direction. And with that initiative petition process, it's the Secretary of State's job, responsibilities, maybe a better way to put it, to write clear, concise, complete, simple ballot language, a couple of sentences, so that if you don't understand that amendment or for some reason you didn't have time to read it before you went to vote, that simple ballot language would be there and it would be clear to you how you want to vote. Not the Secretary of State telling you how to vote, but saying if you vote yes, this happens, if you vote no, this happens, so you make that decision. Because we've had Secretaries of State that have used misleading language to get the results they wanted. And the purpose of elections isn't to get what the Secretary of State wants, it's to get the will of the people, and for the will of the people to be made known on Election Day. And we have a tax increase that's going to be on the ballot right now. Raise your hand for kids, tobacco increase. And what happened there, The Secretary of State wrote that simple ballot language, and maybe it's just me, but when it comes to tax increases, I think you probably want to know who's going to pay it, how much it's going to be, and where the money's going to go. I mean, those three things. And on that tax increase, or proposed tax increase, he neglected to mention that it would go up every year 3% in perpetuity. Now, the amount of the tax is pretty important, and the Missouri Court of Appeals for the Western District said that that language was inaccurate and misleading. That's inappropriate. We've had that happen several times. The Secretary of State was wrong for writing that language, and the Attorney General, whose job is to make sure the simple ballot language is legally correct, was wrong for approving that language. And we need to have a Secretary of State that'll stand for the proposition that the will of the people needs to be made known on Election Day, and I'll do that.